So let me guess. You might be going through a phase in your life where you feel lonely, isolated, confused, misunderstood, and you really have no idea what direction your life is heading in. It's as if you were existing in some sort of void that's completely unexplainable. You're having a hard time understanding it. Well, I have some help for you. If you're on the spiritual awakening journey, maybe this little bit of information I have to give you will help you make sense of what stage you're in so that you can get through it with more ease, acceptance, and surrender. Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is Yelena if we haven't met already, and if you are a returning subscriber, then thank you so very much for being here. I'm always so super grateful for all of you guys in this growing community and the amazing valuable comments that you leave below. I cherish that so very much. Today's video is another addition to my Spiritual Awakening series, and this is gonna be all about that isolation, seclusion, solitude, and deep introspective phase called the Hermit Phase and many spiritual circles. So I wanted to address this a little bit because it's a space where I have spent a lot of time. I found myself here way more times than one, and it's a place where I seem to evolve, do the most inner work, and really flourish when I come out of it, and now even when I'm in it. So I wanted to share this insight that I've received from this very specific phase of spiritual awakening to maybe help you understand some confusion, a sense of loss, or a void that you might find yourself in from time to time. But first, let me quickly introduce myself. I am an intuitive soul coach and astrologer. I help empaths and energy sensitives who are awakened on their spiritual awakening journey to really heal themselves and accept themselves so that they can begin to open up their gifts and really step into their path, purpose, and mission. So if you are not already a subscriber, make sure you tap that subscribe button below. I update multiple times a week, and I promise not to disappoint. So initially, spiritual awakening seems as if it's this magical experience, which it is, okay? And a lot of us step on this path from very traumatic experiences. Not everybody, but some. But no matter how traumatic the experience was, there's still this mystical, magical element to it. And it can feel as if you're in some type of fantasy world. You start learning about all different dimensions of reality. Maybe you learn about aliens or astral travel, how to awaken the third eye, and Kundalini energy that lies dormant at the base of the spine that awakens gifts and psychic abilities. And of course, you guys, when we first awaken, these are all the things that draw us onto this path and make it seem very, very intriguing. And I am totally a person who is guilty of this as well. And while all of that stuff holds a lot of truth and it has a lot of validity, I believe that there's many other things that need to be focused on first and foremost. Now, a lot of the clients that I work with who are going through a spiritual awakening, usually when they're first awakened, will always tell me that they're good. They don't have any healing to do. They don't have any trauma that needs to be addressed, and they're fine, right? And I myself thought this very same thing when I first woke up. So when I first woke up, previous to that, I went through a lot of traumatic experiences, pretty abusive on all levels, relationship, just a lot of trauma that I created, like experiences that were bad that I created on my own, as well as a multitude of different addictions, among many other things. And I remained walking through life very unconscious. However, I worked through a lot of these things, and then I had a crazy awakening experience. So I thought, hey, I've already done a lot of this work. There's no way I have any more work to do. Like, I am whole, I am awakened, and I am ready to start on my journey. And boy, yeah, I was a little misled. And I don't want to make this sound like doom and gloom or anything like that, but I just want to make this very realistic for all of you. So even if you didn't have a past like mine, right? Even if you didn't have a lot of traumatic experiences and there wasn't a lot of stuff that you had worked on previously, let me break this down for you. There are a lot of experiences from our childhood and from our lives all the way growing up from our childhood. There's just a lot of experiences, a myriad of different experiences that really impact us on a very deep level. Now, this also includes conditioning from growing up in school systems. I always say this, education systems, from our families, from our religious belief systems. So I could sit here and list these things for you for hours that really affect us and that build up layers and barriers, blocking off our heart and blocking off our true, authentic expression of who we really are. They shape who we become, and they also influence our behaviors, our habits, our patterns in everyday life. So really, we have no idea how unconscious we've really been operating in our lives until we start to do the work. So no matter how whole you believe that you are, we are all very conditioned by this 3D experience that we have been born into. Another thing we also need to remember is that this is all about the journey, not the destination. A lot of us will wake up and we are in such a hurry to get to some prize, right? For a lot of people, it's psychic ability. For a lot of people, it's a huge aspiring career as a healer or whatever it might be. But this is a marathon. It's not a sprint, and it takes many years to really step into our power. I mean, it took many years to get us to the conditioning level that we are at now, so you can only imagine, right, how long it takes to get out of it. Now, with that said, all of this that needs to be worked on so that we can come more into wholeness requires a certain level of solitude, seclusion, isolation. And that is exactly what this video is all about, is the Hermit Phase. It is a deep period of introspection where you are away from the world, whether that is something that you choose yourself or it is maybe imposed upon you. Now, why I say that is usually you will feel a calling. You'll feel like intuitive nudges to just take yourself away from the world. You will actually sometimes crave deep solitude and to be alone, to be more introspective. But sometimes people who maybe have alpha personalities, who are a little bit more masculine, yang energy, will tend to fight this. And because of that, certain life situations will happen that will impose this on them, right? So it's almost like forced upon you because it's what you need in that moment. So it's best not to fight this if that's you, okay? Now, if you do resonate with this, but you're still a little bit confused, as astrologers, we have many ways of looking into your natal chart, as well as a mix of the transits, which are where the planets are currently moving, where we can tell when these deep, introspective, solitude times of life, where you need to do a lot of inner work, are going to be, where they're placed, what time periods that they'll occur in. So if you need a little bit of help decoding this, I do have a link below to book a reading. So in my own personal experience, as well as relating to other people that I've met who are also on their awakening journey, this is a solitude hermit phase that doesn't just happen one time. It's something that happens over a succession of years, right? A multitude of different times. Honestly, for me, it's probably happened about 3 or 4 different times. The first time I really do believe is always the hardest because you're a little bit more resistant. You really truly do not understand what's going on yet, unless you've done the research and you get it. But once you experience it and you see the deep transformation that occurs, you really begin to crave it more because you see how much you evolve, how much you grow, and then you will experience it on deeper levels. So just to give you a little bit of an example, the first time it was totally imposed on me. I kept going out, hanging out with the same groups of friends, getting myself into the same trouble, and it was imposed on me. So I was placed in solitude and spent time there for a couple of years. And then I came out and I did the work. So now my solitude periods are usually imposed by myself when I feel the urge, I feel the nudge to do so. And they're usually spent stepping into purpose, stepping into mission, studying a lot deeper. I really started to study deep astrology and do work with life coaching and spiritual coaching so that I can step into my purpose. And all of that requires time away from the regular world so that you can do that type of work too, right? So with all of that said, I wanted to make this video to give you guys about 5 or 6 little pointers here about why the Hermit Phase exists and why it's so important. So we're gonna go ahead and start with number 1. It is a period to integrate and process our major shift in perspective that we have just went through. So we wake up, right? And the world, as we once saw it, will never look or feel the same way it ever did, ever again. And this alone is a huge shock to the system, right? It is literally a huge shift. It is something that almost flips us into this like crazy manic state. And I'm sure you know what I mean if you've been through this. It's really disheartening sometimes. It can shift you from being in a state of anger to one day being in a state of elated bliss, right? So you're like, what in the world is going on? It's almost as if you are on a crazy roller coaster ride because we're waking up to some crazy things. And I have a little list of some of these crazy things that I'm talking about. We came here on a mission to assist humanity in its awakening from a major dark period of time. Maybe that everything in the universe is made up of energy and vibration. Or the truth surrounding reincarnation and the transmigration of the soul from one lifetime to the next as a path of evolution. Or maybe that we're not the only life form that exists in this universe. What about the fact that most conspiracy theories hold a whole hell of a lot of validity? Or that a very small percentage of people own most of the world's wealth and power and are controlling the rest of the world. Or maybe it's the fact that we've been lied to, kept small, and are more powerful and divine than we could have ever imagined. Okay, so yeah, if you're not totally weirded out by all of that, when we come to this world and we're told that there's this man in the clouds or whatever belief system was ingrained in you from a very small age. And basically that a lot of history as we know it is a lie, and just many, many other things. So obviously this is gonna shift us into a panic state of what the hell is going on, right? So of course, you guys, we need some time to process this, integrate all of this information in solitude away from people, because the way that we sound in conversations sounds really freaking crazy to everybody out in the world that is not yet awakened, right? So we need some time to process this so it becomes our new norm so that we can step out into the world having all of this embodied and really understanding this dynamic that not everybody awakens on the same timeline, and that you cannot force this information on people who are not yet ready to receive it, because then they become more resistant to it, or it negatively affects them in many different ways. So it's just like a whole slew of things that we really need to learn, integrate, and embody. So moving on to number 2, this is a period of introspection and cultivation of self-awareness. You must know thyself in order to be thyself. So one of the first things that I started doing when I woke up was really observing what was going on in my own mind. All of the constant hamster wheel of thoughts that were racing in cycles, the negative self-talk, the stories that I was telling myself, the different scenarios that I would play out in my head, which were usually worst case scenarios, doom and gloom type of stuff, and then realizing that I was creating every single thing and making it happen in my life. And I was creating a whole hell of a lot of hardship for myself, as well as mental turmoil because I wouldn't stop racing around in my head. You also start to realize that you're running programs of the same thing that you've been doing over and over again, which are creating all of these same behavioral patterns, bringing the same types of relationships and same addictive tendencies, yada, 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 yada. Right? So it's very mind-blowing. Your mind is like a computer processor that needs to be reprogrammed. You have to consciously work with it on a daily basis. And this is part of doing the work. I started reading a ton of different books, self-help books, spiritual books. One of them was Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, when I learned that my thoughts were not who I am, and that my mind is actually supposed to be a trusty servant and not to be running the show. That I am to have control over it, right? And that alone was a huge awakening moment for me. I was like, oh crap, well, I guess I better get this under control. And then after I started doing the work, I realized that you can really get to a point where you have a quiet mind that is very peaceful. And I love this state that I now find myself in. This is where meditation and journaling really came in handy. You start to get real about what kind of stuff you've been allowing in your life. Like, you get clear about your morals and what you value in life, your belief systems about yourself and about other people. that are limiting you and holding you back from where you really want to go, what you've always been trying to achieve, but you didn't know why you couldn't ever get there. And a lot of times this work is being done unconsciously, almost as if we're being divinely guided, which we are, by our higher self and our team of guides that we don't realize are always surrounding us, that are helping prompt us in our own mind of what to do in every moment. You also begin to realize that most of the things in your reality are your own karmic creation. And this is a hard one. This is a hard one to accept because karma is basically just the choices that we make and then the results that happen from those choices. So we begin to realize that we have made a complete mess out of all the choices that we've been making. So therefore, we need to clean up the mess and untangle the karma and decide to make better decisions moving forward, because we're always creating karma. Whether it's positive karma or negative karma is up to you. You hold the power. And finally, you realize that you no longer care at all about materialism, the constant drive towards fame, success, notoriety, towards making a ton of money or getting attention or whatever, validation, whatever it might be. Those things become less and less important to you. All right, number 3, no longer relating to others and also being extremely sensitive to energy and other people. So you find yourself in a place where all you do is eat, breathe, sleep, and think spirituality. You just want to research, read books, find yourself doing things like watching tarot card readings or studying astrology or watching tons of videos or maybe sitting in meditation. And the last thing that you want to do is be out in large crowds of people with a lot of noise and a lot of crazy chaotic energy, or talking to people about minuscule, stupid little things when you've just had your eyes open to the reality behind everything. You want to be alone. You crave it, and not only do you crave it, but you need it. You may find yourself in a state where your moods are constantly fluctuating. So you may find yourself in a state of anger and confusion to joy and bliss, and then all of a sudden depression and loss and confusion. So you might even start to think that you're crazy or you are bipolar. You might even go to the doctor and get checked or put on medication. And this can really start to affect your relationships in a very negative way. So then your partner, family members, or your friends might ask you to go and do something that you would have normally really enjoyed doing. Say it's like going out to a sporting event or going to a concert or going to the bar or whatever it might be that you used to like to do. But all you want to do is be alone and do spiritual stuff and study and talk about spirituality with people who understand you. So you naturally deny or you go and you really hate it, right? And then you have this conflict with these people where they might even make negative remarks to you or make fun of you or cut you down or just really not understand you and maybe think that you're on drugs or whatever. So it's just like a lose-lose, it feels like at this point. With all of that said, you intuitively just start to make your circle of people smaller and smaller and smaller. So you start cutting people out of your life as you go along and progress on your journey. And this is something that will probably continue. And you really begin to see everyone and everything for who they truly are. And this was the people that you attracted when you were a different person, when you were thinking and believing a certain way, when your vibration was at a certain level. So you might find yourself involved with people who are narcissists, who are using you in certain ways, who are energy vampires. Maybe you're in codependent relationships or any of these different low vibrational dynamics. And as you start to pull away, these people may react very harshly. So you really need this alone time, this solitude, this seclusion to get right with who you are, what you want in your life moving forward, what your values are, what your morals are, and what you will and won't accept, and to establish clear boundaries and learn to say no, all of those things, so that you then begin to attract the right people into your life who are on the same path, who are experiencing the same things. Now, let me tell you, you guys, it will happen, but it takes time. So you have to be patient. So therefore, you need to really learn to enjoy your own company, being in your own energy. All right, number 5, periods of deep healing and internal shadow work. So back to the idea that we really have no idea how much a lot of things from our past truly impacted us. It could have even just been a situation in high school where we were made fun of for something and it just hurt us to the core. It broke our heart and it put up a big barrier. And we've totally forgot about it, moved on from it, but it's stored within our body, right? Our bodies keep the score. Our bodies hold this memory. So needless to say, all of these things must be addressed and healed. We have to be willing to face these deep wounds, these darker aspects of ourselves, and work with them. Now, we can always go the route of therapy. That's always beneficial if we need to really kind of talk things through and understand them on the level of the mind first. I think that's always a helpful step, but it gets to a certain point where rehashing everything from the past doesn't really work anymore, and it brings us more harm than it does good. So what we really need to do is allow these emotions and deep things in the body to come up to the surface. We need to allow ourselves to heal them, no matter how uncomfortable, no matter how painful, and acknowledge them. All they want, it's like that little inner child version of ourselves that needs love, that needs attention, that needs affection. So we need to give them the acknowledgement and the love that they so deserve. And I know all of this can be very painful and it's hard and nobody wants to do it, but let me tell you one thing. Every single time that you do this, you are removing another pound of bricks that you have been unconsciously carrying behind you, and you feel lighter and lighter and more free every single time you do it. Now, I already know you might be thinking, how the heck do we do this though? Like, how do we know what to heal, when to heal, what do we do? And I totally understand where you're coming from, but let me tell you this. Once I surrendered to the path, once I stepped onto it and said, I'm doing this, I'm dedicated to it, and I am open to whatever I need to work through, and I set that intention, my higher self and all my guides would bring it in either into my mind for me to work through it. They would bring it to my attention somehow. Maybe they would bring it up in meditation. I also had psychedelic experiences where this was brought up. And also, it will just naturally happen in your life experiences through relationships with other people, right? So these relationships, we want to start observing and seeing what's going on, what dynamics are playing out, because we will catch a lot of the things that need to be healed through these interactions with others. Now, you guys can also do this on your own through yoga. Yoga definitely brings a lot of deep-rooted stuff up to the surface. When you're doing body work like that, you can do different types of meditation. Breath work is super powerful for shadow work. You can also do things like past life regressions, or hiring a spiritual coach, or working with an astrologer to get to understand yourself on a deeper level and these different dynamics that are at play in your birth chart. There's also something called shamanic journeying that's really cool. If you look up a shamanic practitioner in your area, you'll find more out about that. Or there's always psychedelic experiences like ayahuasca, but I definitely don't recommend that for everybody. It takes a certain person. And finally, number 6, a search for meaning and purpose. You feel lost and you have no idea what you want to do with your life. It's the void completely. You feel like you're in this void of loss and confusion. There is a very strong possibility that you might really start to hate your job and your career that you're currently in. You might even find your way out of it somehow. I was able to step out of my job and I ran this little at-home consignment shop where I sold things, and I was able to have like a good period of a year and a half where I was able to do the inner work at home by myself. You definitely will start to feel a calling to do something in your life that has a lot more meaning, where you're helping other people and you truly love your life's work. It means a lot to you on a very deep spiritual level. And that's cool because that is exactly what we're here to do. You might begin to ask yourself questions like, who am I? Why am I here? What is the meaning of life? What happens after we die? Or why is there so much suffering going on in the world? So in this deep time of the hermit phase, of this solitude, you become the truth seeker. You're on this quest seeking truth, seeking deeper meaning, seeking to find out who you are, what you came here to do, what your mission and what your purpose is. And as you do the inner work, you begin to purify yourself. You begin to heal yourself from the inside out and become more whole. And then once you do that, you'll start to get little puzzle pieces of what your purpose is. And that's when it starts to get really fun, you guys. And some of you might already start to get little pieces here and there, but I believe you get rewarded when you do the work. So you'll start to get more and more pieces of the puzzle. And just as a reminder, this is a process. So just an example of kind of how my journey went a little bit is I started studying astrology when I first woke up after I was doing a lot of healing. I would watch like tarot readings on YouTube, which really led me to astrology. And I obviously obsessively studied spiritual awakening and narcissistic abuse and all of these things that I had went through to try to make sense of it, not even realizing I was in this hermit phase or what the hell was going on. And then it led me to yoga. And I thought that was my purpose. I thought that was it. I was going to be this yoga teacher. I was going to have a yoga business. And I did like a couple 200-hour teacher trainings and really did that disciplined for a couple of years. And then I started to realize that that is not it at all. That was just a tiny little piece of the puzzle. And it was more so just like a disciplined area of focus for my life to help me on my journey, to stay on the straight and narrow, to stay disciplined and active and help heal my body and have that mind-body connection, right? So that was just a piece of the puzzle, which was beautiful. And then I got more and more into my astrology studies and realized that was a huge, huge part of my life. And then really realizing I wanted to be a coach and doing trainings and life coaching and spiritual coaching certifications. And now I'm just doing more astrology, and now I'm a teacher's assistant for an astrologer, and I want to someday be a teacher. So I have no idea really where this path is leading me. And I think now, to me, the unknown is the most beautiful thing, where before I used to hate it. And I used to want to control my experience so much. And now I really surrender to it. I have learned to trust, and I know that I'm not going to have the whole picture right away, and that is okay. And that's honestly the fun of this whole journey, is watching it all unfold, and the many, many cycles of healing every layer and finding your heart once again, breaking away that barrier that's been blocking it and blocking your connections that are deep and meaningful with other people. And that is the reward of this entire process. And it is so very beautiful. So stay on the journey, you guys. I promise you, I know that this aspect, if you're in it, can be very difficult, but there is such a light at the end of the tunnel. So just stay on the straight and narrow, do your work, focus, do everything that I talked about in this video, and just understand, appreciate, respect, and accept where you are right now. If you do want to talk about it a little bit further, you can book an astrology reading with me below. And then I also offer spiritual coaching. I'm an intuitive soul coach. So if you decide you want to work with me a little bit further, if you just want to have a conversation about all of this to get some more information on what I do offer, you can book a discovery session with me below. I would love to have a chat with you for 45 minutes or so. And yeah, so if you benefited from this video, you guys, please help out this channel. I would really like to get this information out to more people, help the channel grow and evolve. Tap the like button below. Make sure you subscribe, as well as leave me a comment. I would love to know your experience with the Hermit Phase. And also, if there are any other topics you'd like for me to talk about, please list them below. Don't be shy. And thank you guys so very much for watching this video. I send so many blessings your way. I love you guys. Peace and namaste.